So people wonder what goes on and why they have to deal with price. When you make an offer to somebody and they start talking to you about price, you're in trouble, because price should not be the primary issue when you deal with somebody. And how do you stay out of the price trap? Well, it's very important to understand that there are three major pieces to this, but the primary understanding is that when you have one, okay, and this one is that you have a fully informed buyer, okay, and then you have the second thing is alternative sources. Alternative sources of supply. So if you've got a fully informed buyer and alternative sources of supply, then price becomes the issue. Like my dad, when he went to buy a new Ford in Vermont, in Rutland, Vermont, we only had one Ford dealer. So what? We didn't have an alternative source of supply, so they could charge whatever they wanted. Now what happens? If you got the internet and you want to buy a new car, you tell them what kind of car you want, the color you want, and how far you're willing to travel. It then goes out to all available people in that business, and what? Price then drops because you have alternative sources of supply. Now with the internet, what happens to fully informed buyer? Are they getting more or less informed? Of course, they're getting more informed. So you're not going to fight this. The internet is a structural change. You cannot fight this. So the only place you can deal and get out of the price trap, okay, is to not have any alternative source of supply. So it's kind of important to understand that you don't fight this because you can't. The internet has changed this. So how do you have to do this? You're going to have to stay and basically understand that you're going to have to stay. You're going to have to stay unique. Now, what happens, of course, is how do you stay unique? Most people don't understand it, okay? And so you start to look at this, and what happens is you get down here in terms of the value equation. You get down at the bottom, and you're dealing with commodities. Now, commodity sand, anything that's a commodity, easily accessible, it's all about price. Commodity is about price. Then what people used to have, and they used to do this thing, they used to move up to the next level, which was the product manager. Okay, now the product is no longer product because, take a look at your cell phone. Is your cell phone a product or is it a service? It wakes you up, what? It keeps carrying, you can listen to music. So is it a product or is it a service? So you're going to see that there used to be a difference between these two, but no longer. These two now have been put together, and what you've got now is something very, very different than it used to be. You now have to start to look at whatever you do, it comes from a space of offer. So these get combined. You can't answer when I say your cell phone. What is it? You buy it, it's a product. You use it, it's a service. It wakes me up, whatever it is. So these are gone. And they still have engaged big companies, service managers, product managers. Are you kidding me? They don't exist anymore. You put a chip in it and it becomes something completely different. So these don't get you to where you want to do, because these are all what can be duplicated. You can't play down here. You can't. If you play down here, you're going to get copied and your price is going to drop. So stay out of this. So where do you have to play? Where do you have to work? Where is it you have to be? You have to be above this. You can't stay there. You have to be above this. Now, what's above this? What's above product and service? What is it? Well, you got to understand it starts out with, okay, the experience. So you have to be in the business of delivering an experience. Why? Because everybody's experience is what? Unique. And unique is where it starts here. So the minimum, if you're going to be, by the way, the term that I'm using here is if you're dying, I use the words. Okay, DIVAL. What is DIVAL? It's dynamic value, and it's constantly changing. We're living in a world of liquid turf, and so DIVAL continually changes. Experience is the minimum level. So what level is above experience? There's two levels going here, okay? So the next level above experience is a thing called transformation. If you can transform from being overweight to thin, transform from being fat to skinny, anything that you can do in transformation moves up. Okay. And as you go up from experience to transformation, of course, your DIVAL goes up. Doctors, what? They transform you from being sick to being healthy. That's why they can charge so much money. That's what goes to hospitals. So they're going up to here. Now, that is a very powerful thing to look at. Okay. And so when you go to a hospital, what do you go there? Because you're what? Not good health. You transform to be healthy. That's why your doctor does that. But there's still one level above that. And the level above is where you really want to play if you can. And that requires something completely different. It requires prediction, predictable transformation. If I say, look, you come here, you work out, you do the stuff that I tell you, you will transform your body into one that's strong. If you go to the doctor, he says, if you'll do this, take these 2 pills, you'll be fine. So predictable transformation is the highest level, because what can you do when you've got predictable transformation? What do you do? What is it? There's a big thing that happens when you can do this, and that is a thing called risk reversal. So if I can predict that you're going to do better, and I say, look, do this, and if it doesn't work, send it back and I'll give you your money back, or I will, whatever it is. Risk reversal is really, really high, and you can charge way more for that. I had one of my friends who kept very clear records of his business when he worked with people, and he could show me that 94% of the time it worked. And I said, wow, then you could do risk reversal. And what we ended up doing was tripling his price, because he's able to charge that, because they're in what? Bad space. They want to feel the transformation. And if you can predict the transformation, you could charge 3x. And at the time, see, they're in the pain, they will pay 3x. So we did that. We charged 3x. Exactly happened. He got 94% predicted worked. The other 6% didn't. He risk reversed, gave them that, but he made way more money. I think we ended up with almost 5 times as much net profit by having the risk reversal. So risk reversal on predictable transformation, I had, I just can tell you that's where it goes. I had a very good friend of mine who had colorectal cancer. I called the hospital. I went to the internet, by the way, the internet being there, and I found the #1 colorectal cancer person in the world, and that happened to be in Sloan Kettering in New York. I called up and they said, well, it'll be, they said 90 days before we can have her. And what I ended up doing is getting my network to help me, and 11 people called that particular doctor. I only knew one of the 11, but I asked friends to help me, and we got her in the next day because she only had 3 to 6 weeks to live, and that was almost a decade ago, and she's now healthy. So, but do you think I ever asked that doctor ever what it was going to cost? Of course not. What we wanted was what? Transformation at any cost, because it was depending, her life depended on it. So the idea here is if you're going to do things, you've got to understand you can't play here. You got to play here so that there is no alternative source of supply, and they have to deal with you. And how do you know if there's alternative source of supply? If they start pushing price first, you know that you haven't done a good job at this. I learned from Bucky a long time ago that the bigger the picture, the more accurate your prediction. There's nothing in a caterpillar, if you just study a caterpillar, will ever tell you about scenario butterfly. So my entire life, I'm working as much as I can to be a comprehensivist. That is interested in everything, so I can make better choices, better decisions, and have a better perspective. What can I do for you?